Good morning, grade 2. How are you? Today we'll start with the first lesson in chapter 6. That's about natural resources and it's called How Can People Use Natural Resources? Before we start with natural resources, we need to know what is a resource. A resource is anything that people use to meet their needs. Anything that people use to meet their needs. There are different examples of resources, but we will start with the first type of resources, which is natural resource. We studied natural resources in grade 1, and we said natural resource, something in nature that people use. Natural resource, something in nature that people use. The natural resources, they are found in nature and they are not made by people. But in grade 2, we can say natural resource is a resource that comes from nature. It's the same like something in nature that people use. Let's start with the first natural resource that's found in nature and many people are using it. It's water. How can we use water? Can you live without water? Of course not. How can we use water? We can use water to drink, to bathe, to cook, and to grow plants. So we have different ways of using water. What about you? How can you use water? So water is used for drinking, for cooking, for growing plants, and it can be used to bathe or to take a shower. The second natural resource that we will study is rocks. Remember when I told you that the earth is made up of rock, okay, and we call it earth crust. So rocks are pieces of earth crust. Rocks are pieces of earth crust. How can we use rocks? We can use rocks for buildings, for roads. We can use rocks for building homes, for making different things around us by using rocks. The third type of the natural resource that we speak about is clay. Do you know the clay? Who doesn't know the clay? The clay is made up of tiny pits of rock. The clay is made up of tiny pits of rock. We can use clay to make buildings and other things. So remember that rocks are pieces of earth crust. Rocks are pieces of earth crust. Clay is made up of tiny bits of rocks. Clay is made up of tiny bits of rock. How can we use the clay? We can use the clay to make building and other things. Soil is the fourth type of natural resource that's found in nature. Who doesn't know how can we use the soil? We can use the soil to grow plants. Another type of a natural resource, and it's found in nature and it's not made by people, it's metals. Metals, how can we get metals? We get metals from rocks called ores. 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 How can we use the metals? We can use the metal to make pots, to make pans, to make bikes, to make cars. All of these things are made of metals. So where do we get metals from? We get metals from rocks called ores. Plants. You know that the plants, they are examples of natural resources. How can we use the plants? First of all, we can eat the plants, like the vegetables and fruits, they are plants and we can eat them. Another thing is that how can we use the plant is cotton. There's a plant that's called cotton, okay? And Egypt is famous for cotton, okay? Cotton is used to make cloth. Cotton is used to make cloth or clothes, okay? What else or how can we use the plants? We get wood from trees to build things, to make doors, to make chairs, to make pencils. So where do we get wood from? We get it from trees, and trees are plants. Here is telling you that we use plants for food. As I said, we are eating plants. We use plants to eat. The last example of the natural resources that I want to speak about today, they are animals. Animals are natural resources. How can we use the animals? We drink milk from cows. We eat eggs, or we get eggs from chicken, and we use wool from sheep to make warm clothes. So animals are natural resources, and we are using them in different ways. So please, let's summarize what did we speak about today. We spoke about resource, and we said resource, anything that people use to meet their needs. Anything that people use to meet their needs. We said natural resource, something in nature that people use, or it is a resource from nature. We said water is one of the examples of the natural resources, and we can use water in different ways: to cook, to grow plants, to bathe, to drink, to swim. Rocks is a natural resource. What is the rocks? The rock is or they are pieces of earth crust, because I told you in lesson 1 that the earth crust is made up of rock. How can we use the rocks? We can use the rocks for buildings and for roads. Next, we spoke about the clay. The clay is a natural resource. Clay is made up of tiny bits of rock. We use clay to make buildings and other things. Soil is a natural resource. How can we use the soil to grow plants? Metals, and it's very new for you. Metals, where do we get metals from? We get metal from rocks. They are called ores. We get metals from rocks called ores. What do we make from metals? We make pots, we make pans, we make bikes, we make cars. There are many things that are made of metals. Plants. Plants are examples of natural resources. We are using cotton to make cloth, and we are using wood from trees to make tables, to make chairs, to make homes. We are eating plants. We are using plants for food. The last example of a natural resource in our lesson today is animals. Animals are also the natural resource that's found in nature. They are used by people because we are using the cows to drink, or we get meat and milk from cows. We get eggs from chicken, and we get wool from sheep to make clothes. Thanks for watching grade 2, and see you later. Bye.